What's up, everybody? Welcome to Make Things Tiny. My name is Mick. ADUs are becoming increasingly popular in the US, not just over here on the West Coast where everything's super expensive, but the most important factor in the overall success of your ADU build is actually your contractor. So today we're talking to Harry. Harry is the owner of PowerScale Media. Harry works with contractors that are specifically building ADUs to help get them in front of clients and maximize their success. So this is a great video for those of you who are contractors, who are looking for better ways to get in front of clients. And it's a great video for those of you who are homeowners who are looking to get an ADU built, because Harry's going to give specific tips on how to make sure you ask the right questions so that you can get the right contractor. So make sure you watch to the end of this video. And if you're new to the channel, please take the time to subscribe. Helps me out a ton. Let's get into it. All right, I'm here today with Harry. Harry, thank you so much for being on the channel. Harry is the owner of PowerScale Media. I'm excited for people to just learn more about you and hear about what you do. If you don't mind just talking a little bit about like who you are, what you do, and we can go from there.
For sure. Well, thanks for having me on. Watched some of your content before. I know you have a engaged community, which is always awesome. My name's Harry, and I actually run a marketing agency. So I work directly with residential contractors, and particularly people who build homes, particularly ADUs, and want to find local homeowners to support building that with. There is such a lack of trust between homeowners and contractors, and that's kind of what I set out to try and figure out a way to connect. And what I do is I work with contractors, help them record video so they can make a human to human connection with local homeowners and support them on actually running ads so that they can get in front of local homeowners in the area. And so I focus exclusively on contractors who build ADUs, predominantly in California, but across a couple other states as well. And I really enjoy it. Get to basically work with people who are building roofs over our heads. So it's awesome.
No, it's really cool. And I think that's an interesting point you brought up. I never thought about that. You said that there's a lack of trust or like a trust issue between homeowners and contractors. Do you mind talking a little bit more about that? Because like I feel like I've never even really thought about thought about that before.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've heard horror stories of people hiring a contractor who comes in, does half the work, takes the last check, and then leaves the project undone. And unfortunately, and it really is a shame because those stories permeate throughout a community. And just like an investment in a home is probably the biggest investment that someone's going to make in their life. And so finding someone that you can trust, especially when there are people who are known to be fly-by-night contractors, can just add a lot of stress and anxiety around that process. And so what I try and do is basically work with contractors and say, look, people want to buy, people, as I said earlier, people buy from people. They want to get to know you. They want to get to know your personality. Are you more funny and quirky, or are you more analytical and a little bit more reserved? Because at the end of the day, when a homeowner chooses a contractor to work with, they are committing not just financially, but for the next 12 months to be working together on a weekly basis to make sure the project is completed. And then from the homeowner side of things, as a homeowner, you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence on the contractor that you're potentially going to work with, and making sure that they can potentially show you around some of their existing sites. When you go around the sites, are the employees wearing personal protection equipment? Are they good at communication? Do they turn up on time to meetings? So that when it comes to actually working on your project, these early signals will be a good indication to what your experience will be like down the line. And that's just something from the contractor side, and then from the homeowner side that I always think is important to make sure they get lined up.
No, definitely. And I feel like you're bringing up so many really important points that I feel like speak to why it's really important for people to reach out and get the support with how they're presenting themselves on social media. Like as you know, and I know, like being involved in social media and creating content, like people do fall in love with the person. So you can have an incredible business, you can have an incredible product and not sell anything because they don't like what you're presenting. They might not actually dislike you because they don't know you, but they definitely don't like what you're putting out there. So I think now more than ever, I feel like it's incredibly difficult to stand out just because people have to make that emotional connection before they're even willing to call you.
100%. I actually have a couple thoughts on that.
Hmm.
First one is doing great work is always the most important thing. Referrals, word of mouth, without a doubt, is obviously the best way to grow your business. And I'm speaking more towards contractors now.
Hmm.
Um, you know, when you have a great experience, people are going to talk to others about it. But with that being said, people are talking to their neighbors less and less these days.
Right.
And when it comes to building tiny homes or ADUs, which is where I focus on, not a lot of people know people who have built an ADU. And so, like, for me, I don't know anyone who's actually built an ADU. I have friends who don't know people who've built ADU. So if they wanted to build an ADU, word of mouth isn't as effective as kitchen or bathroom remodeling. So that's the first thing. Social media marketing in particular, and just having an online presence has become more important than ever, especially when it comes to the kind of building home side of things and tiny homes. And then in addition to that, I'm sure you've seen it, and I'm sure homeowners have seen it as well. Every contractor's website looks the same. People hire the
Yeah.
same teams to do SEO optimization. They
Hmm.
bring in photos. Some of them might be from the actual contractor, some of them are just from the internet, but they all look the same. There's no personality. You could switch any two websites out and you wouldn't have an idea that they were switched.
Hmm.
And so, because of that, again, there's such a lack of trust between homeowners and contractors, and it's very hard to differentiate your website unless you have video content. So, my huge belief, and its proof is in the pudding. Like, if you're watching this video now, you buy in through video. And my personal belief is that video is a great way to build connection, to build trust, to get to know the person on the other side. And it's the first introduction before having a conversation on the phone or an appointment in the construction office or at the homeowner's home. So I think video is really important on websites, but more than anything, social media is where everyone is spending their time these days. And so we want to try and get people kind of there if we can.
No, I agree. And I think that even, just speaking to on the tiny house side of things and like builders and that sort of thing, the same thing you're saying, like the websites do look the same. And I think that maybe there's a little bit that's been lost in translation from what we're seeing on social media, like visually, like with the pictures. Like we want to make sure we're putting out like really beautiful photos of tiny homes, really like beautiful renderings of ADUs, or like the best pictures you can find of like the builds. And then just sort of sticking that on the website with the same sort of color scheme. Even I've seen similar color schemes as well. And you're right, like if you go through it, you have no idea who those people are. Some of them don't even have about us pages anymore, which I've noticed too. Like there is no section where they can get to know you as a person. So yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like I believe that if you want people to buy into what you're doing, they actually have to know you. And I think that for better or worse, whether you're comfortable on camera or not, you are your brand. Like it's you. It's not the thing that you're putting out. It's not your ADU. It's not your tiny house. It's you, your personality, your excitement for it. Like that's what's going to get people through the door. And I mean, that's just the world we live in right now.
100%. And it's like, it's kind of crazy. And I think that people are waking up to it now.
Mhm.
But across every industry, e-commerce, construction, everything, you're not a product company that does media. We are now becoming media companies that sell a product.
Mhm.
If you're the best, highest performing realtors, construction companies, they are phenomenal media companies that then serve their clients through the form of construction. And it can feel super intimidating sometimes to move into like creating content. That's always the first hurdle, is just getting comfortable being on camera. I used to be an Excel monkey. I used to be in management consulting, so I didn't used to do this stuff. I was sat behind a big computer.
Yeah.
But once you get over that initial barrier, it then can just completely unlock your business. And the great thing is, like, word of mouth can only scale as fast as people can talk, whereas content
Mhm.
can spread all across the internet. And I know with your audience and some of the videos that you have, they have tens of thousands of views. Like, you don't have tens of thousands of people in your local community
Mhm.
talking about you as a contractor. And so media is a phenomenal tool to be able to get you exposure. Yeah, I mean, it's also, you don't have to overthink as a contractor, like you don't have to overthink the type of content that you can make. For
Mhm.
example, I was just doing a shoot with a company the other day. And I was just asking, the guy, like, what sports he likes to do. And he was talking about how he likes to snowboard. And, sometimes he's actually worked with clients and then they've gone snowboarding together and that's been great for their relationship. And as he was talking through it, you could see his passion, you could see his personality. You got to understand, like, he basically took off the stiff layer of being a contractor and showed his more emotive side, which basically gives homeowners an idea of what it would be like to work with him. And so if you're a contractor, talk about the hobbies that you're interested in, talk about, so ADUs, for example. What's an example of how someone in your local area has used an ADU for one of their parents to move in? There's lots of different ways where it doesn't have to be so salesy, but it can be more getting to understand the person behind it. But I'm actually curious for you, like, if a homeowner came to you and was thinking about building a tiny home, like, what would you encourage them to think through, and how would you kind of walk them through that process?
Oh yeah, sure. I first and foremost, I would want to know like their intention behind having the ADU. I think that's a really important part right now. As all the laws are getting better, especially here in San Diego and California, like you're in California as well. Just thinking through like what do you want to use it for is I think that's the first thing. And then I would also suggest that they actually find someone that does ADUs specifically, because I am noticing a lot more companies that are general home builders that are now tacking on ADUs or tacking on tiny houses as something that they do. And I'm it's not that I don't believe that they can do it, but I think there's something different between someone who is just, deciding today that they want to build ADUs and someone that has the passion for it and understands it and can answer all their questions. I think that's something I would say. And then I would say to do something similar for what you've mentioned, like see if you can find any content on them. That's something that I could do for people if they reach out. I'm kind of like, I love to go down content holes. So like, I'm more than happy to sort of like do the work to do the research for them and narrow it down to specific builders. But I would definitely tell them to figure out who the person is. Like you're saying, like get to know the person first and ask the questions and make sure that it's not just going to be a job for them.
Oh, so you actually help homeowners find contractors?
I can help people pretty much find anything when it comes to
Okay.
anything related to tiny homes or ADUs. So,
Oh, good to know.
like I do work with builders who do tiny houses, but they also do ADUs as well. So just getting people to connected is kind of my end game, is trying to reduce some of the overwhelm that people experience when they think I want to go tiny, or I want to, in this case, have an ADU, but I have no idea where to start. Because as you know, there's just too much information out there now. So
For
that's
sure.
kind of where I come in, helping you
Okay.
sort of like sift through the information, so that you can find someone that you trust.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's super helpful. Again, there's so much opaqueness. I know there's a couple other companies who try and support that hand holding, but
Mhm.
they're all kind of like VC backed. It's not as like you understanding really what people want, doing a true vet of who their contractors are. So yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that being super valuable. Yeah, it's interesting on the working with people who do just ADUs. I think that's a really good point, especially just given the permitting process for ADUs can be
Mhm.
more complicated than just getting a kitchen or bathroom remodeled. And on a city by city basis, it changes. And so I work with contractors predominantly who just do ADUs here in California, because also there's just such a boom of them right now. But understanding from a city by city basis what's needed at the permits, and like getting to know the people at the city level so they can expedite things, they can know any changes that might need to be made in advance. Yeah, it's definitely a benefit.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I feel like that's something I've been thinking a lot about with this industry, like tiny house ADU industry, as it continues to expand. Um, I think there's just going to be a greater need for people to sort of be a go-between the business and the consumer, because I think there's mistrust that's developing between people that are interested in buying tiny homes and tiny home builders. I don't think that it used to be there, but I think because the industry is changing so much, like prices are going up, I feel like people do feel like there's a little bit less transparency in terms of, pricing. Honestly, like I feel like people do feel that way just on the price of the homes. I do see there being a bigger need for more people to sort of step in and be like, hey, let me do the heavy lifting for you. Let me do the work of like, like what you're doing is like, making sure that the contractors are putting out their best sort of selves so that people can, actually get to know them. And, similar for me when it comes to builders, just making sure people, know who they can trust, know the types of questions that they need to ask so that they can get a good product, which is, ADU or a tiny home.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, like because there is such a, this is me blowing my own trumpet a little bit now, but because there is such a lack of trust, and because so many contractors are anxious about creating content or don't know what to say and don't want to be on the camera, for the few that do, the spoils are phenomenal, because not only do you start to, when you do content, but you also run ads together, video builds that human to human connection, and then ads predictably get you in front of local homeowners so we can actually advertise within a service radius that you offer. When you're able to create videos for ads that are really focused on conversion. So, for example, say something along the lines of, if you're a homeowner here in Orange County and you've been thinking about building an ADU, but you want to find a contractor you can trust, my name is Harry. I'm the owner of XYZ Construction, and I love to build ADUs in our local neighborhood for people who are looking to add extra value to their home, create rental passive income, or more space for the family. If you're interested, feel free to send me a message. We can hop on a call. A piece of video like that is not going to go viral. So if you just post it, it's not actually going to do anything. But a piece of video like that that has advertising behind it will, for the right person in Orange County who's looking to build an ADU, wants to find someone local, that will trigger them to take an action, to hop on a call with you. And then one of the huge benefits as a contractor of creating content as well is that when you step into the room with a homeowner, they already view you as an authority figure, someone that they see like, oh, you're that contractor from social media that I saw. Like, oh, I'm actually talking to you. When you consider that versus going to an appointment from a lead that's come from Yelp or Thumbtack, where it's been, a lead that's been sold to 5 other different contractors, like you're competing out of the gate. The homeowner knows nothing about you versus they have just seen a video of you and are excited to talk specifically to you. The conversion rate, and then also just like the stress of it all, is just completely different. So it takes some courage to get into. Obviously, there's like a smaller financial investment to it, but it is an investment that pays off in huge dividends, because that customer is then going to be talking word of mouth to others, and people can share content on social media. So,
yeah. No, I think it's a really good point, especially because I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed that I don't see as many Google reviews. Like I don't see as many like reviews of ADU builders, of construction companies, of tiny house companies. Like if you put in like a tiny house company and you put it into Google, you're not getting the same volume of reviews from people. I don't know if it's because people just don't feel like going to Google and putting the reviews there. You see the client testimonials on websites, but for a brand new company, for a brand new tiny house company or a brand new ADU company, honestly, there's no way for people to know whether or not it's worth their investment, because there's not going to be any reviews. And if they're not putting anything out on social media either, like you're saying, like there's no advertisements, there's no reels on Instagram, there's no videos on their website, like you really can get lost in the weeds, so to speak. And then from the consumer side, like I don't even know how you would choose. Like I only know who I would choose as a builder right now because I'm doing all of the work through like creating the channel and researching. But if I knew nothing about this industry and I knew nothing about ADUs, I wouldn't even know what to do, because there's way too many search response. Like there's way too many. It's too many.
Yeah, it's exhausting. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's so true. I forget sometimes. Like actually step in if I was a homeowner. Yeah, I mean, especially just content is just a way to build connection before an actual conversation, because speaking directly to contractors here, when you're trying to scale your business, there's 2 things you're trying to do. You're trying to get awareness and conversion, right? And so like conversion happens with trust building, but awareness comes from exposure. And so if you're just doing organic content as an example, sure, that might increase the conversion side of the equation, but how are you actually going to get in front of people? Like you have to run ads somewhere or do something to have a megaphone to talk about what you do. But yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I guess for homeowners, like what would you say are the 3 things that they should be thinking about when they're chatting with a contractor? Like first time they're meeting a contractor, what are the 3 things that they should have top of mind?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I would say like timeline and budget from like a technical standpoint, because at least on my end, from like the tiny house perspective, those are the things that I've I'm like starting to realize are really crucial points that people need to know. Because if you don't know what your budget is and you don't know what your timeline is for getting something done, it's really hard for you, at least on my end of things, to sift through the different types of builders, because different tiny house companies have different build times. So if you come to me and you say like I want a tiny house and I want to look this way, but you only have 2 months, that just narrows down who I can recommend
Mm.
down to like probably like only five. I could probably think of like
Mm.
like less than 10 companies on my hand I could think of. So
Mm.
definitely that side of it. And then I would probably just ask them what it would be like to work with them. I mean, maybe that's just me because I'm a people person. Like I know that if I hire someone to do something and our personalities don't match, like
Mm.
I'm gonna be less likely to ask the right questions. I'm gonna feel
Mm.
uncomfortable in general. So I would just ask what it would be like to work with them. What's your communication style? What's your turnaround time for, letting me know on projects? Like, do you want me to be there on site? I'm not really sure if that's a thing. Like, do people tend to, can you like have your contractor working on something when you're not there? Like, what's people's comfort level? I don't know what you've seen in that sense, but those are things I would think of.
Mm. Yeah, totally. I totally agree with all of those. Yeah, usually contractors can work on site without the homeowner being there.
Okay.
At least I've seen, but I think I'd probably add onto your point around, what's it like to work with them? Like, can I
Mhm.
speak with any of your previous clients just
Mhm.
to basically do a confirmation? But yeah, I think all of those are a good focus. Also, I'm curious, like, how do you think about the new construction versus the modular construction ADUs and
Oh
tiny
man.
homes? Like, what it? I guess it's like person to person,
Yeah.
but I'm curious on your take, especially for like a first time tiny homer or ADU building.
This is a tough one because I think that like everything that we've talked about is affecting like people, like general publics, like consumers perceptions of all of these. So I think I would personally gravitate towards new construction because I feel like I would have more control over the product itself.
Mm.
With some of the prefab, the modular ones, there's less customization involved, so you have to really fall in love with what their design is because you really can't
Mm.
do too much to it.
Mm.
But the price, I think the prices are going up for either one, so I don't even know if I could give a price recommendation. I would say that if you're curious about design wise, I would always say to go towards a builder that does custom work because there's not a lot of builders. There's less and less builders that are doing custom builds. So that's something that I think there's a gap between what you're seeing on social media because you're seeing all these pretty pictures of tiny homes and you're seeing all these pretty pictures of ADUs on social media, but you're not necessarily aware of the fact that that's one of like three designs that they'll create for you. Like you can't
Mm.
go to them with like everything that you want and like customize it 100%. That's just not cost effective for a lot of builders nowadays.
Mm.
So they're shifting away from that. But
Mm.
I'm a sucker for new construction. I think if I was to have a tiny house tomorrow, I would want to, build it exactly to my specifications. I wouldn't want something prefab or modular, but hopefully, I feel like some people
Mm.
might be upset at me for saying that, but that's just how I feel. But yeah, it depends on your budget and depends on what you're okay with. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree all with everything you said there. I definitely see the like modular can be more affordable, so
Mhm.
there is value there. Less customizable. I think one of the another benefit of doing new construction is down the line, like if something breaks or is more significant, like you're gonna have easier recourse to work directly with the person who built your home. Whereas
That's a good point.
for modular, it's usually like there is a contractor who's doing an install, but there's another party who is kind of like responsible. And if you've ever tried to chase something through someone else, like you never get it done. So I not thinking off the top of my head what could go wrong, but just with that in mind, like things do go wrong in builds, and making sure that you'll be able to get your money back or get whatever it is repaired, I think is really important. But yeah, I mean I'd love to just talk a little bit more about ADUs specifically.
Sure.
ADUs, like in California right now, are blowing up, and I can't
Yep.
wait to see across other states as well as it starts to get more adopted, how it blows up there too. I mean, in California, I saw some graph saying since 2022, one in every five homes built in California has been an ADU. So, like, there's a huge housing crisis here, and there are tons of homeowners looking to build ADUs, and I know some
Mhm.
contractors are absolutely cleaning up. and there are other contractors who are struggling to stay alive and are thinking about moving state. And it all comes down to how you're positioned in the market, and can you get in front of these local homeowners who want to find someone that they can trust. And that comes down to effective marketing across multiple channels. But yeah, I'm curious to see if this same energy around ADUs that we're seeing in California expands to other states, especially now that I think it was San Jose last month or the month before allowed you to actually sell your ADU. So you can like immediately subdivide a plot of land into 2 plots of land. So from an equity, like financing side of things, the cash on cash return for investors is also quite magnificent. And so be curious to see if, there are other like socioeconomic things that impact when that happens, and we're just going to have way more houses on top of each other potentially. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for homeowners, for investors, and for builders. And so yeah, it's just an exciting space to be in right now.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think especially here in California, I don't think I would recommend anyone, because I'm thinking about millennials. I'm thinking about our generation, like those of us who are thinking I want to buy a house, but I don't have, millions of dollars. I think that buying a house and immediately thinking, can I put an ADU in this backyard, is something that most first, if not all first time home buyers should be thinking about right now, especially if you're on the West Coast because it's pricey, but East Coast if you have the space, but like honestly anywhere, because there's the demand for it from people on the rental side. Like if you look at Craigslist ads right now, 10, 15 years ago, people are looking for 2 bedrooms, 3 baths that they can rent. And now you're seeing people looking for saying I just want a small space in someone's backyard. So like people are actually seeking out ADUs as an alternative to an apartment complex. Because for one, you're going to have it's better, like in terms of like what you put into it upfront cost wise. Apartment complex might charge you more for security deposit. Maybe the rent goes up, so you could have a different agreement with the landlord when you're in their backyard. So yeah, I would suggest anyone that's looking to buy a new house right now today to think about whether or not they can put an ADU in the back of it, because it'll help them generate income, or it could help them put their families there. So yeah, I think that in general, we're going to see a lot more ADUs, definitely on the West Coast, but maybe just in general in the country.
For sure. No, absolutely. And I know you work with, you have a lot of guests on these podcasts and it's usually about them, but I would love to know, just to self-promote you for a second, because you work so hard to put this content together, who are like the types of people with the problems that they have that would best to be reached out to you? So I know, for example, you mentioned earlier, if someone's trying to find a contractor in their local area and they're feeling overwhelmed, they can reach out. What else do you usually help people with in the community?
So I think on the side of people who are looking to buy tiny houses, that's something where that's kind of my passion. That's why I created this channel, is to help people. So, anyone that's interested in getting a tiny house, but really doesn't understand where to start, either from the design side, because I have worked as a designer, so I can help out there, just fleshing out ideas, and then getting them connected with the right builders. Because there are a few now, between the ones on my channel and other ones I've talked to, that I feel are doing things a little bit differently. And even getting connected to communities too, so where to put their tiny homes, if you want to live in one. So really just helping people sort of sift through all of those difficult sort of questions you have to ask. And then of course on the side for companies, just sort of similar to what you're doing, was just helping them sort of get out there and make sure that they can stand out, because it is really difficult now. If you're even looking for, if you're a tiny house community and you want to know how do I connect to people that want to live in tiny homes, there is no traditional format for that now in this industry. I think that's what makes both of the industries that we're in so exciting and unique to be in, because there is no traditional way to market yourself, to figure out who these people are. So if you're a business starting out today, where do you even start? So yeah, so it's on both sides.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And yeah, for contractors, that's super helpful as well, because I can just imagine a homeowner coming across one of your videos with a contractor and watching it for 20 minutes and being like, oh, I like this person, not even considering reaching out to anyone else, potentially having just one conversation.
Yeah.
That's the power of a 30-minute chat with you, is someone can get to really, it's the whole thing with content, both short form and long form. And I'm trying to figure out how, potentially I could do more long form stuff with contractors, because it's a great way to just build a lot more trust quicker. which is kind of the thing that we're trying to solve at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, for sure. Especially because, when you do, you come on the channel, you do an interview, you're answering the questions that people
Mm.
are asking. So, it also helps, ease some of the nerves for maybe some people that were thinking of like
Mm.
going and calling someone, but then they watch you and you've answered all these questions already. It creates like, I think, social media content that's really good creates like small bits of trust even before they know
Mm.
you, because
Mm.
they got to see you answer questions and they got to see, like you're saying, like your passion with that one client that you were talking about. And I think that is what people need to feel safe enough to even make a phone call nowadays.
A
I think
hundred
there are
percent.
plenty of people who won't even make the call if they don't know who the person is and they haven't seen the face behind the build.
Yeah, definitely. And then
Mhm.
even when you go on shows like this, like they can be linked to your website. Like there's so many ways to use and repurpose that content. Um, yeah, it's pretty invaluable.
Mhm. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, Harry. This was awesome. I'm excited that people get to see this conversation. I feel like I don't think we're having enough of these conversations either. So I feel like there's definitely more space for people on all the different sides of these industries to have these conversations. I think that it helps people just sort of get more comfortable and also asking some of the tough questions. Like we talked about a bunch of things that people are not comfortable talking about, with like the housing market and just like, making sure your personality fits with people. Like, all the distrust, like these are really important things that I think people are talking about, anyway. So we might as well talk about it here on YouTube. Might as well put
A
it out
hundred
there.
percent. Of course, of
Yeah.
course.
And
I guess I'm gonna do a little plug as well.
yeah,
So
for sure.
if you're a residential contractor and you sell ADUs and you're trying to find more homeowners in your local area to reach out to you, as I mentioned through this video and ads, it's a killer combo. It is a predictable way to get new clients, and ADUs are super expensive. They can be 200, 300, 400K. And
Mhm.
so the return on investment for social media marketing is phenomenal. If you work with our team, we set you up with a CRM, we set you up with AI chatbots to support in just getting the conversation going with people so you can have a conversation on the phone. We set you up with a CRM, video sales landing pages, scripts so you can get an idea of what to say, all of that. So as a contractor shifting into this new world of digital marketing, we kind of like hold your hand through that. And we are just focused on ADUs. So kind of maniacally focused on ADUs, but but it's good fun. So yeah, if you're curious, I'm sure we'll pop a link somewhere down below. You can schedule a call with me, and it will be me that you actually chat with on the other side.
That's awesome too. That's not always the case. So that's good for people to know. But yeah, of course, like your website, links to everything that you're doing. Direct contact is in the video description so they can reach out and they can ask questions. So yeah, I appreciate you being on the channel, and honestly, you're welcome anytime. Like we can have these conversations whenever you want. I think that it's good for people to hear and to see and get to know people, get to know the people that are behind, trying to make sure they get a good product and they feel comfortable with what's in their backyard. It's your backyard.
Yeah,
you
it's
know
your exactly. It's your backyard, 100%. And it's just like I hear a lot of there's just it's also just great. I know we're going back into it, but it's crazy how versatile these tiny homes can be. From I was talking about the examples earlier of like add home equity to your property. You
Mhm.
can force appreciation, which is super powerful. You can have rental income, so it can offset your mortgage, or just more discretionary income to spend on other things. Also see huge value in it for bringing multiple generations together on a same in the same location. So if it's the grandma moving in, if it's the sister-in-law moving in, if it's the son staying in the local area but wants their own space to run around and not pull your hair out, that's just they're so versatile. People using them for studies, people using them for like garage bands, like sorry for like all kinds of things. Basically, they're awesome, and I'm super glad to see kind of the government doing things to
Mhm.
reduce the friction for people to be able to build this themselves. Because if you own your land, you should be able to do what you want on it. Is kind of my belief,
Yep.
and having more flexibility in that, I think, is awesome.
No, for sure. No, I agree. You should be able to do whatever you want. The
Yeah.
bare minimum, you should be able to control what goes on your property. So it is good to see that, especially the part with people being able to sell off, a part of their land. That I think that's a game changer
Hmm.
too. So yeah, no, it's great. I agree with
Awesome.
you.
Well, thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here, and we'll talk soon.
All right, all the best. Take care, everyone. See you on the next one.
All right, that was my conversation with Harry. I appreciate Harry taking the time to talk to us about just the mistrust between homeowners and contractors, sort of how he comes in to sort of bridge that gap by providing contractors with the resources they need to create good content so that people can form a bond with them early on and just learn who they can trust, because there is so much information out there, which I know so many of you out there are sort of like overwhelmed by the information. So make sure you reach out to Harry if you're a contractor who specifically builds ADUs to get connected. Their contact information links in this video description so you can get connected to Harry. Thank you so much, Harry, for chatting with me and chatting with all of us. And also, if you're just interested in learning more about tiny houses, or you have questions, you need help finding a builder, make sure you reach out to me. You can always send me an email at makethingstiny@gmail.com. And if you're new to the channel, please take time to subscribe. It helps me out a ton. If you're interested in ADUs in general and you want to learn more, you can check out my recent interview with the Dadu guy. So you can check out that video as well too. And don't forget to think tiny. I'll see you guys in the next one.